Oh.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Well.
Ow!
Now that's the power of love.
Oh, I'm going to have to adjust this now.
Oh
Isn't it?
no, wait. Hello, everybody.
I just tripped over
If
everything.
you've been watching from the start, that was, just need to you've knocked the light as well.
Oh, sorry.
There we go.
Oh.
Alan just literally just destroyed the entire office as he walked back to sit in his
Well,
picture.
no one obviously knows where we are because we have this backdrop up, but we've decided we're going to change at some point. But behind the camera, yeah, we have a light and we have a set of
Fat boy scales.
Fat boy scales. Hold on, we're not receiving.
It's what we do every or I do every single day because we're trying to lose a little bit of weight at the moment. Is we come down from upstairs in the morning. You right there, Adam?
Yeah.
And we go straight into the office. We strip down. We stand on the scales. We then cry a little bit because I don't ever lose anything, even though I'm trying my very hardest. And then we carry on with our day, but they just sit in the middle of the floor for whatever reason. We don't even put them away, do we?
No, we don't. But because we don't let the kids in this room either. I think that's why this room's become
like booby trapped.
Yes, because we just shut the door, and it's not that I'm quite happy with the kids coming in, but there's so much. It's one of those self-perpetuating. We might actually start Ask an Expert in there. It's self-perpetuatingly bad. So the kids come in and touch something, so we shut the door, and because they then didn't come in, we then left more stuff out, and then they came in and touched both of them, so we kept the door shut.
One day we might just tidy the office.
Yes.
Anyhow, welcome to Ask an Expert. What are we on? 56?
50? No, it's not. What is it? 55?
55. Welcome to Ask an Expert number 55. If you're watching on YouTube, as always, we always appreciate a little thumbs up because that's always appreciated, isn't it?
Yes, thumbs up. So thumbs up's about here. And we'd love it, please, if you subscribe to our channel. So you can either click on subscribe or there's a little spinning thing around about here and you can, click on that and that will let you subscribe during the playback or the live show.
And if you're listening on podcast, welcome. I hope you're hearing well today. I don't really know what to say to podcasters. What do we usually say?
Well, funnily enough, Chris Evans and Vassos had this exact same conversation on Virgin Radio this week. Yes, I followed him to Virgin Radio, discussing what they called the release, launch, whatever of a new podcast. So we don't know, but hello, podcasters. Tonight, this has not been planned. Emily's wearing
very
mustard.
badly.
That is horrific clashing.
I'm wearing mustard covered in deer, rabbits, hares and geese.
And I'm wearing yellow covered in white, black, grey pineapples.
We don't really contrast well together. This is
badly planned. Was badly planned. Sometimes I'm planning like I wore my red shirt with pandas on and your red jumper before, and that looks fab. But this doesn't look
too many
fab.
Tones of yellow in one room.
Yes, too many tones.
So tonight, what have we got to talk about tonight, Alan, as well as the usual? So if you are watching for the first time, Ask an Expert is here every single week, live to answer your questions about your outdoor wedding planning. That can be big, it can be small, it could be how to choose your table decorations, to oh my goodness, where to find the perfect location, to I really don't know how to tackle my family who think this is a wild and crazy idea and that I should be getting married in the Marriott. All of that we will help you cover. So if you have any questions and you're watching live, please do feel free to put them down in the comments.
Stop press. Emma is watching and she has said hello.
Well, Emma.
Hello, Emma.
Hello, Emma.
Yeah.
Should we just go to that straight away then, as we've now just built it up?
So we have been running a competition. We've been running. No, hold on. I think in showbiz world they tease it towards the end.
Emma, hold fire.
Hold fire. So we know Emma entered our latest competition because she wrote on the post.
What could it be that Emma as well, or not one because we don't want to release the winner?
No, we don't want to release the winner yet.
End,
hold fire, Emma. So I've listened to enough radio over the years to know you don't give the golden away at the start. You tease it. So yeah, we're
not in radio. Never will we be in radio. Oh, Adam would love to be a radio presenter.
My childhood thing. This is true. I applied for an internee type role at Radio 1 donkey years ago. I think I was like 19 or 20, something like that. Might be in early 20s. Already probably still too old for Radio 1. Didn't get it, obviously. That's why
Break.
we now sit here talking to a camera on YouTube.
Talking about weddings.
But one day, I've always harboured a desire to be a radio DJ, Radio 1 DJ specifically. Anyway,
You're definitely not target demographic these days.
No, I'm not.
No.
But then North Scott Mills, isn't he? Oh, no, he's not 40 like me, though, is he? So, but what's an age? How old would you be if you didn't know how old you are? That's my current favourite quote. Podcasters and YouTubers.
What are we talking about this week, Alan?
Right, so we've got the competition winners from winning the full 6 month, the planning session. So the planning sessions, for those who don't know, is our complete 6 month, we say 6 months, 6 modules, but you'll get it all in one go. It's our complete 6 module program.
The ultimate guide to planning your outdoor wedding.
So we're going to announce the winner of that competition. We're going to launch our next competition, which is going to start tomorrow morning or tonight, to be confirmed, probably tomorrow morning actually. Then we got a blog update. We've got a fab real wedding that went out today, but it was very classic, I felt.
Very elegant.
Very elegant. Is that the word I should be using, not classic?
Classic's fine.
Fine, thank you. And then we have a question in the group from Joe South, who does pop the odd question in.
Again, if you're watching on YouTube and you have no idea what we're talking about.
Emma has a few questions.
Lovely, Emma, lovely.
And we have Emma's questions for answer. So podcasters, Emma is chatting to us on YouTube live, so we will make a point in reading those questions out so you can hear them.
And YouTubers, if you don't already know, we have a Facebook group dedicated to the Outside Bride. It's a little community we've created full of like-minded individuals who are getting married in the great outdoors, and we talk about everything about outdoor weddings in there as well.
So regardless of whether you're on Facebook, YouTube or podcast,
so many social media platforms.
It always felt quite slick to me, but when you say something like that, that's not slick. Basically, all the links will be in the comments section, not the description section of the YouTube video. I think I put them in the podcast as well. I will for all the relevant stuff, latest blog and group. If not, head over to www.theoutsidebride.co.uk and you can get to everything through that. Or just type the Outside Bride into Google and in theory it should be all of that on the front page.
Okay, so starting up then this week, we've had a few blogs out this week, haven't we? What was yesterday's?
I'll be honest, I can check if you want.
Yeah, can we?
Because you're in charge of the blogs, aren't you?
Yeah. We've had a style shoot from Yorkshire. We're getting quite a lot coming from the north of the country at the moment, which is really nice to see. But we had a style shoot on Monday, which was a fairy tale style shoot, which wasn't even your typical, and we like to say there were no Disney princesses to be seen. It was very dark, very grim fairy tale style with there were bunny rabbits, which is very cute, but there were owls and there were dark red apples and very deep blood red colours throughout, and set in the I think it was Jervaulx, I don't know the pronunciation, Jervaulx Abbey in North Yorkshire, and it was really quite mysterious. I really liked that. Yesterday, if you've gone to the journal, no, keep going, the journal.
That is journal.
No.
No, I just clicked on journal. Sorry everyone, we're having a domestic. The journal.
Today we've had a real wedding. Okay, today.
So podcasters, it's taking me back exactly where I was when Emily told me I was in the wrong place. Keep going.
Yes, I know. Yesterday we had a boho inspired ocean shoot. Where was that? I wanted to talk about.
Wales.
And that was really lovely from an amazing photographer who her
kind of hipster boho.
Very hipster. They were a very cool couple. If anything, they were the coolest couple I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The groom model was wearing a really cool hat with sunflowers on it and braces, very
like
Mumford.
A fedora. I think, imagine a light
Is that like
grey.
a fedora?
Is it a fedora? No, that's Roger Federer. It's a fedora hat.
Okay.
Anyone, let us know who's right. Comment, please. Who was right? I say fedora, and Emily says fedora.
Fedora.
I think it's what Indiana Jones wears, but his was a bit more battered and beaten than this guy's.
Anyhow, the photographer, Wild Bee Photography, was not only the photographer, she was the stylist, she was the florist, and she was the cake maker for this event. So she did all of it herself, and I think that is the epitome of a creative entrepreneur. She loves all of it, and she really had the idea in her head that she wanted to get out there into the open, so she did it herself. She didn't have all the contacts, so she did it herself, and I think hats off to her. She's done a sterling job, and if you haven't yet checked it out, do check out the blog because it's worthy of a little look, because it is so pretty.
Emma agrees with me. She says I'm right. Fedora.
Right, what's that last little bit we need to adapt and change?
Yeah, whatever.
Right, so Okay, Alan's right. Story there. You're always blinking right.
Your words, not mine, mate. Keep going.
Then today we had a real wedding of Sarah Jade and Vince, and it was set again in Yorkshire. A lot is coming out of Yorkshire.
Funnily enough, there must be something in the water because we watched a programme on BBC Two on Sunday night. They were from Yorkshire.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of There has, unless it's just one of those object focus. Right, I'll move on because we've actually got quite a lot to talk about. Let's waffle
but
in
they
tonight.
had a country garden wedding, and what we love about outside weddings, which we've always stressed with the outside bride, is that it can be anything from a farmer's field, a blank canvas, it could be a woodland, or it could be an actual venue, you know, a real wedding venue, a static venue that has amazing grounds. And Sarah Jade and Vince were married at the Old Lodge in Malton, and they had a beautiful ceremony outside on all the gardens. And if you look at their photos that we put up today, it's full of under a willow tree, and they were playing on a lovely garden swing, and they had lawn games, and it was so pretty and so delicate, wasn't it? I said it was very, very soft. She had a very beautiful long sleeved, high necked Maggie Sotero dress, and he was in his military attire, and then moved into an evening suit for later on, and it was so soft, so gentle, so
it was
pretty.
really nice. The picture under the willow tree I really liked. And you just mentioned the cake as well.
Oh no, and
I thought the cake was
the
stunning.
bride and groom made their own wedding cake, which is not unheard of, but the two of them together in the 3 days leading up to their wedding created it together
It was
as
really,
a part
I
of
thought it
it.
was really lovely.
And
So I'll put links to that below when this is not live and is available on playback and in the podcast. I always try and put a link.
So, do you want to start with questions?
Yeah, let's go through Emma's questions, I think. So Emma says, first order of the day, how does everyone go about planning this and making sure it goes to plan?
The order of the day. Right, okay. First things first. Whatever you've got in your head, all of those details, and it could be very, very detailed. Strip it right back from the start and give yourself big windows and chunks of time for things to happen. Because quite frankly, I have never, I've maybe once been to a wedding, never been to a wedding where it's run to time. Have you?
No, not even our own, so, and we're quite highly organised, boringly organised.
So that would be tip number one. Appreciate that whatever you've got in your head and timeline for the day, it's not going to stick to it. So be very, very fluid and flexible with how that day pans out. If you're very strict with your timings, I don't know, you might have a dove send off at 4 if you're doing that. I don't know if anyone does that either. But you've got very strict timings, you're going to have to be really, really, really strict on how you're going to get people from A to B, all that kind of stuff, but working throughout your timeline. Starting off your day, I think, if we're talking about from when the guests arrive or from when you wake up in the morning, I would say give yourself what Emma, if you're watching live, can you tell us what time of day you're looking at getting married so we can sort of work it through?
What time is arrival at the
venue, the ceremony?
Ceremony.
Yes.
Assuming the ceremony is at the same place reception is.
Yes.
Yes. So yeah.
If you're watching live, that's
she is, but she's going to take a. It's got to go from wherever Emma is up to like her. It's got a long way. It's got like thousands of miles to go.
We could work it in.
Her other one's an easy question. Should we go?
Let's go back to that.
Yeah,
yes.
We're going to come back to your running order one because there is a bit in it. And like for anyone else, look, we cover running orders and planning your day like in minute detail on the planning sessions. Okay, second question. I know you've talked about generations before, but what do you think is best? One big 40 kVA or fewer smaller?
Okay, we've covered this a few weeks ago actually, and we will talk about it again. So obviously, if you're going a 40 kVA for a standard wedding, I'm going to say standard wedding,
meaning inverted commas,
meaning a band plugging in, some lighting plugging in, your catering plugging in,
and all in one kind of
one area. 40 kVA should be ample, more than ample.
Yeah, we actually you can go through 23 kVA. Is it
23 or 24 kVA?
24 kVA. But 40 kVA is probably absolutely fine.
That will be enough power to power a standard wedding with, unless you are having a full-on weekend wedfest with 1,000 bands playing at once, which is probably very unlikely.
So you think about it as in, we always use the example, you've got two cars, you've got like a Ford Fiesta, that's your 23 kVA, and then you've got, what's a big like car, like a big BMW, big Mercedes, whatever, it doesn't really matter. They can both do the same job in this instance, okay? However, the Fiesta's going to have to work a bit harder than the Mercedes is at cruising along the motorway because at speed. So if you think about you're going to be putting loads and loads in and going fast and whatever, then you probably want to go for the bigger generator. If you're literally having a band and your caterers aren't drawing much and some lights and a few other bits and bobs, then a 23 kVA is fine. And with regards to backup generators, that's your choice. I've never known a generator to break down.
No.
But never say no. It's an engine. It's an engine at the end of the day.
The only other caveat I would say, which we brought up a few weeks ago, is if you are having a large scale wedding when you've got lots of stuff. So you might have your main tentative structure, you might be having street caterers coming in, you might have a bouncy castle over there, you might have camping way over there where you're providing showers and toilets right on the other side of the site. If you have a particularly large site and you're spreading everything over and you are intending on using one generator, the power might be okay, but the cabling might be an issue because you've got a large space to cover. You might find, for simplicity and ease, that to have two smaller generators either ends of your space. One, we'll use the example of camping and glamping, that kind of, one that end to deal with the toilets and showers that end, and one the other end of the site to deal with your catering bar, that kind of stuff, is easier, because otherwise you've got to take into consideration you will have hundreds of meters of cabling back and forth, which you have to account for, trip hazards.
There is some funny things about power travelling long distances.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's out of my skill set.
But if you're going literally for your event, you have a finite space here, and you're looking for just to run your wedding, the 40 kVA would be fine. I would say, touch wood.
Well, my Sparky. So when we were setting them up, so I'm not qualified in any of this. This is self-taught plus with experts, professional experts. He said when we had a 23 kVA, he said your distribution board, like in the house you have in the house, will trip before the generator dies. He said before the generator trips, your distribution board will trip. So he said that's absolutely fine. What you'll find is a lot of suppliers just have a bank of 40 kVAs because they will be able to do weddings plus kind of next level things, if that makes, what's next level from a wedding? A village fete. I don't know. That's all I can think of quickly. So if they're only going to buy one type of generator, they're only going to buy a 40 kVA if that's what their market is. So that's why they may suggest it. Saying that, it's not wrong. So
No.
I hope that does help, Emma. She's also answered the other question. As I put my fedora, I can't even say it now. Ceremony is at 12. We have access to the chapel from 11 to 1 o'clock. Then our venue is a different location, about 5 miles away.
Right, that's perfect, Emma. So I'm assuming chapel, so we're having more of a church wedding service type of fair. So first things first is you're getting ready time in the morning, like how far away from you are from the chapel. You may well be a little bit late, because it's always fashionable to be a little bit late. A service of that kind would last roughly around 45 minutes. If you're going for a civil ceremony or a celebrant ceremony or anything like that afterwards, you'll be looking at about half an hour. That being said, that's not going to be 45 minutes out the door, you're done. You're going to be coming out of the church. You're going to be having you have confetti shots. You're going to have a few photos at the chapel probably. That takes time. The bit where people always get unstuck is from that's fine, we've got a 45-minute service now, we'll be at the field by 1. No, you won't, because if you've got a chunk of people, say 100 people, all having to go and find their cars, getting in their cars, going into the sat nav, where am I going now? Alan, where am I going? Do we have a postcode? I can't find the invitation anywhere. Oh my goodness.
I haven't seen you in years.
Oh,
how are you?
how
How's
you doing?
Linda? How's
Yeah,
Margaret?
yeah.
How's Shirley?
That can be a little bit of time chunk taken out. So if it's a straight line down the road, that's not be an issue. But if people have got to get in their cars and get to your venue, then get out the other side of the venue, then park their cars, probably park them in the wrong place, and then be told by an usher, actually, can you move your car to the other side?
Always.
It's always the way. Then getting out, you're looking, that's definitely an hour after your ceremony finishes before you even start to get to the reception venue, before you can start the next bit where you have canapes and stuff. So over egg your timings massively if you can from the end of the service. Give yourself at least an hour afterwards, probably a little bit more in fact, to get everyone from A to B to start the rest of the afternoon.
Then it all depends on what you're planning. So excuse me, if you're having canapes and welcome drinks and that kind of stuff, you'll want to potentially have some more photos taken. So that will take probably an hour and a half chunk of just that kind of reception, drinks, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Leading into your afternoon food of choice if you're doing food. And I say that if you're doing food because we've had a discussion this week on the Facebook group as well about there was a post of the woman not doing food at her wedding.
Oh yes, we did have that.
We'll discuss in a lot more detail in a minute. So it depends on the type of food you're having. If you're having a relaxed affair, if it's barbecue, if it's more picnic style, then by all means that could run into the afternoon. If you're having a 3-course sit-down meal, it would be probably best to get that timing around 4 p.m. So no later than 4 really, because again, the type of food and service you'll be providing, if it's table service, if it's people serving to the table, that's a lot of people to be serving. That's a lot of change arounds with changing of plates. If you're doing 3 courses, that's the speeches, and then all of a sudden you realise, oh no, that's 6:30. I mean, not even got to speeches.
I don't think any speech has ever, not speech, what comes after speech is like cake cutting and dancing. It's never started on
that
time.
Can happen in the evening, but if you're saying your evening guests come by 7, that actually really compresses down to a very short amount of time. But again, depending on what you're doing, if it's say that more street food, outdoorsy, rustic feel, that could start a little bit earlier. That could be more picky into the evening anyway. So really, it all depends on what you're doing. But I would always say over regular amounts, and don't put too much detail into that time frame, because you'll be disappointed, I suppose, if it doesn't happen. Because the worst thing, I've managed a wedding in the past and it was detailed down to every 5-minute segment for the afternoon, and that puts pressure on your staff because they feel like under pressure to make sure that they're delivering to that, but also you don't get to enjoy the moments as they arise, because weddings are amazing things, aren't they? Because things just happen.
Are amazing.
They just happen. Uncle Bob, I always bring up Uncle Bob. I don't know why. I don't even have an Uncle Bob. Do you have an Uncle Bob? No, we have an Uncle Bob. But Uncle Bob will do something really silly in the middle of the speeches, and we'll all laugh, and that becomes something really candid, and you want to enjoy that, not go, no, sorry, stop laughing now, we need to move on to the next thing on the schedule. Definitely. So just relax about it. Give yourself big windows, and definitely give yourself enough window of time in between getting from the ceremony to your reception. I hope that helps. And again, we cover that in the planning sessions throughout.
Cool. Right, Emma, if you have got any other questions, feel free to post them. It's really not a problem at all. Then we've got Joe South's question, which comes from our Facebook group. Link in description, etc.
Right,
podcast and YouTube.
Joe last week asked a very similar question, so we obviously that's the sticking point in her planning at the moment. So we're happy to help Joe. Joe was asking last week about marquee layouts and the best way to put tables and chairs into the marquee for her space for her guests, and to have enough space for a ceremony in there if it was bad weather. And this week she was discussing the pros and cons of trestle tables versus round tables, which is a really good question.
It is a really good question, which to be honest has stumped me, but we'll come back to that, because then what she's also done in the group is offered 2 suggestions of trestle table layout. I don't know if we get so that's set.
That's a rectangle. So the first picture is a rectangle, a landscape rectangle with the top table along the long edge at the top, and with several trestle tables fanned around on
which I've never seen before.
No.
So we'd love you to do, Joe, just because we've never seen it before.
And then the second example is again a landscape marquee with the long edge at the top, and it's in a C shape, so the top table at the end on the short edge. CU, whatever.
Lowercase n. Keep going.
But with the trestle tables in
My only thoughts. We'll come back to pros and cons of trestle versus round. The only one that what I have seen before with trestle tables a couple of times is like the C or U, depending on which way you want to look at it, or horseshoe, is detach the top table and have possibly 3 shorter runs of trestle tables. I don't know how much space you've got in your marquee. Actually, didn't she say last week?
It was a 24.
9 by 24.
9 by 24 metre.
You will, Joe. You'll easily be able to get 3 sets of trestle tables wide.
So the only thing with 3 sets of trestle tables in a row, and I
don't diss it.
No, because I was at a wedding.
Chris and Katie's
and Alex and Paul's in September. you have more space in that marquee than you think.
Yes.
And the only thing I would say is when you have a horseshoe, you have only 2 rows of people with backs to each other. When you have 3 rows, so you've got then in effect 6 rows of people, you are still going to have people back to back on each other, which is.
And she has said one of the things she doesn't like about round tables is people having their backs towards the action and everything.
The good thing with long trestle tables in the format in both of those ways, I'm less inclined towards the left-hand picture with the one with the fan, because I think actually space-wise and chairs moving in and out, you will find you'll still be a little bit close.
It will take up more room. I'd love to see it, but
long, almost like dining hall,
Hogwarts.
Hogwarts. That's exactly Hogwarts.
Yeah,
I think
Hogwarts.
you get to, if you're having sharing style food, you can pass it down the platter. Alex and Porter just mentioned had an amazing toast. So her grandfather was in the Masons, and as part of that was they had a shot toast and they had a bottle of schnapps that passed down the line. And I think things like that makes it really more community based rather than being back to back. The only other thing I would say, and one of the comments was there about what you're having on your tables, is with trestle tables you have less space to play with in terms of what goes on your tables.
Which is fine because Joe has said they're keeping it very simple on their tables.
Yeah.
So
and we did this as a setup a good few it must be
a year ago.
About a year ago now. We did a Ask an Expert live where we actually set up a trestle.
Is it time to do another one?
We might be able to. We might even just rehash it. We might be able to put it out.
Okay. We'll reshare the table layout one.
And we put a trestle table out and we put 6 people on that table just to show you how much space you have to play with, because yes, you do want the tables to look beautiful, and you might have lots of foliage on the tables, and you might have candelabras on the tables, and you might have favours on the tables. The benefit of round tables over trestles is that although yes you are only next to one person, you end up talking to the person next to you because of the way the table gets laid out, you have more usable space in the middle because you can't reach as far into the middle of the table, and that stuff can stay there. With a trestle table, you're only a very short distance from the person opposite you, therefore that middle space is more limited. So if you've got a lot of stuff, I would say it could be a little bit crowded. Saying that, I've seen some beautiful tablescapes where it's just full of adornments and stuff.
To be honest, I'm sitting here trying to decide if I prefer. I think it's purely aesthetic choice, right? I don't think there is massive pros and cons to both. I'm trying to decide if I actually prefer one or. I'll be honest, I actually love a round table. My goal, my dream is to go on a table at a wedding where I know no one.
Yeah.
So I can absolutely talk rubbish. I want to work my way around the table like a proper schmoozer, going, "Hi, I'm Alan. Hi, blah blah. Who are you? Oh yeah, ha 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 ha." All that rubbish, right? I love it. And a trestle table, you don't get that.
No.
You don't get to work around the table when they're in a long Hogwarts style. But then you'll know who your guests are, so you'll know whether
what fits best for you.
What fits best.
I'll tell you, I'm going to bring up Danielle. We went to a girlfriend of ours' birthday at Christmas.
Yes.
And they.
Can you see this working at a wedding?
Not necessarily, but it's a bit of fun, and again depends on your guests. And we went to I think it's 4 courses in the end. Sit down.
It doesn't matter. We went to a nice.
It does matter for the sake of the conversation.
Oh yeah, okay. Apologies to the room.
4-course sit down meal. But when we arrived, again, we knew no one there. It was just myself and Alan and a bunch of her favourite people on the planet. And we were sat separately, which is controversial. Sometimes you like to be with someone you know, but every single course you lifted your place name, and underneath was another place name, and you had to go and find another chair to sit in. So every course over the 4 courses, you swapped places, which meant you got to speak to someone very different at every single course, which is logistically a nightmare for 100 people. But if you've got a more small and intimate affair, that was really good fun, and I really enjoyed that. And I didn't think I would enjoy that, but actually we had some really good conversations, and it just got the room talking. And then for the evening after that, people weren't going back into their own little corners and just dancing amongst themselves. Everyone was involved with each other.
It does.
So it's really a matter of preference. But if you're looking on those 2 diagrams, Joe, I would say that the horseshoe logistically is easier.
Agreed.
And for serving is easier for any staff that might be having to get in between tables.
However, if you have a 9-metre wide marquee, I would explore 3 runs of tables, and then they're shorter, and which allows you more
dancing space,
ceremony space, and everything else, because you mentioned that last week. Right, that's cool. So Emma's not put any more. Emma, I'd say feel free to put questions up. Anyone else who's watching, feel free to put any questions up. So that's it. We're on to announcing the competition winner.
And should we launch this week's?
Okay, yes. So we said we were going to launch it, didn't we? So we are
Week
launching.
3 of our 4-week extravaganza
Yeah.
of competitions.
So week 1 we gave away some tickets to Bride the Wedding Show. Week 2, this week we've given away the full 6 modules of the planning sessions. Full on helping you plan your outdoor wedding. And next week we are going to give away a 1 hour 1-to-1 or 1-to-2 with us discussing your wedding.
Now, this must stress, this is over the internet, so either via Skype or
yeah.
FaceTime or any other.
If you live local, we'll buy you a coffee. If you live within half an hour of us, we will happily meet up and buy you a coffee. If you don't live within half an hour of us, then it is Skype or FaceTime. And you can either choose me or Emily or both of us. That's your choice. Obviously, not subject to availability, subject to diaries, I should say, not subject, because we are available. We make sure we are if you've won it. But we're
if you have a dying, burning question to ask about your outdoor wedding, or you're really stumped on something that you just can't get past that next hurdle of your planning, and you just want a sounding board to talk to some professionals who know what they're talking about, who can just help guide you through to get to that next bit, or offer some suggestions that you may not have even thought about. We're your people.
Yes,
we
just
know a little bit about outdoor weddings.
We do. We've been to loads. We've been to loads professionally and personally. Yeah. So we've seen all aspects of it. We know pretty much everything. That's putting it out there, isn't it? We know pretty much everything. I'm going to stick with it.
Yeah, do it.
Why not?
Yeah.
Right.
So we'll be launching that. That will be going live tomorrow morning. All of the details again will be put in the description below.
Yes.
If you're in our Facebook group, stay tuned for the post, which will be explaining how to win that opportunity. And then we move swiftly onto
the winners of this week. So, and this week's is in last week's.
Could it be?
Yes. So, do you want to do right? So we have 3 prizes to give away tonight. We have 1 winner's prize of the full planning sessions and 2 runners up of module 1. Those who win will be getting emails from us, just letting them know we win.
And I would like to just stress that this is completely random.
This is completely
it's just very coincidental.
So we put this. We've got what we deem our social reach of something like 80,000+. I think it's just hit 90,000. So that's across everything we do on the internet. We have a reach of about 90,000 people that we put this competition out there. And it just so happens that by the time we took the people who entered this, we put them through our automatic sifter, whatever it's called, winner picker, and we've got a winner. And they were watching live. I presume they may still be watching live. But Emma Bauer, you have won the full planning sessions. Well done.
Well done, Emma.
I don't know what the chances of that are, but
pretty fun. That's quite funny and a bit spooky. But
it's fair to say we don't get a large amount of people watching live, do we? No, we don't. We know we get people on the podcast and playback, because we've seen the stats. That's part of our 90,000 or whatever it is at the moment.
No.
But
obviously, it was
the front door.
Who knew, Emma?
Yes, who knew?
Literally, that has blown my mind a little bit.
Well, no, and me, I was not expecting it.
The
so,
stars have aligned.
And when you messaged, I'm watching live tonight, fab, I was like, wow. So yeah, and then we've got runner-up. So runner-up 1 is Charlotte, and runner-up 2 is Jenny. So we will be sending you all emails and getting that all sorted on our website. So
and we hope you like it. And if you haven't won today and you're wondering, the planning sessions.
Yes, what is the plan? Link it.
The planning sessions is designed to help you with outdoor planning from the working with the suppliers, getting contracts in place, working on your layouts, working on your power lighting, toilet situation, working on the get in, working on the get out, everything you possibly need for your outdoor wedding planning. If you're not even going with a wedding planner, because not everyone does choose to do that, then this is the tool for you. So if you haven't won today, apologies for that, but you can still purchase it, and you can find all of the modules individually or as a whole package on our shop on the outside right.
Funnily enough, Emma, we are so pleased. Emma's just chatting in the group. I presume when you watch this back, it comes up. She says, "OMG, I've not won anything for. Thanks so much, guys. I'm over the moon."
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Our pleasure for randomly winning and then randomly being here. We have actually had a last-minute question.
Okay.
Paul Marbrook. Hey guys, love what you do. What is the latest crack on the legal ceremony being outside without restriction? Where are we up to? Has Brexit stolen momentum?
Yes.
I know this. I googled it this week. I've been on the Law Commission website this week, like genuinely, because I wondered what was going on because we were talking about. Quiet. Yeah, it's been quiet. Yeah, it does look like Brexit stolen momentum. It basically, this has actually been going on since 2015. We didn't know that when it came up to the budget. And when they've sent it back to the Law Commission were already looking at it according to the Law Commission website. So they're still looking at it. It's still for review. So we're still waiting, Paul. That is it. So yeah, I absolutely know that.
Come
that
on,
is,
Brexit.
that is
Either
fact
either
this week.
start or stop. Either way.
Or I nearly properly swore then.
No, we
or,
can't.
Or jog on.
Jog on, but
yeah.
that's a whole different conversation because we are all encompassing.
I think regardless of whatever you voted on Brexit, it's a farce. You know, that's it. We're not going to get any further into politics.
Yeah, let's
from
not
that.
lose subscribers now.
No.
Political
No. Because actually we're quite passionate about it. It's all most political things. So Paul, I hope that answers that. Am I brave enough to write "we answered Brexit" in the description for this? I don't think I am.
No.
But, yeah.
So let's hope that this.
Paul, quick question: are you a supplier or a groom? Out of curiosity, I think you're a supplier, but only curious. Doesn't really matter either way. Right,
Yeah.
that is it. If Paul wants to comment that while we're saying goodbye. So Emma, congratulations
Well done,
again.
Emma. Well done,
Charlotte, Paul, thanks so much for the knowledge. Total farce indeed. Yeah. What did we say? Emma, congratulations once again.
Charlotte and Jennie,
Fantastic.
congratulations
Charlotte and
on
Jennie,
module
well
1.
done, runners up. Competition 2 being launched. 3 this week for a one-to-one with us discussing your special day. Links to everything we discussed about in the description. We've talked about a lot today, haven't we? Please like and subscribe to the video, subscribe to the channel, like to the thumbs up, all that, write a comment, whatever, all the positive fun stuff. Podcasters, thanks for listening. You haven't missed much apart from me tripping over and we drunk a gin and tonic. Paul's a photographer.
Our healthy lifestyle changed about what? It took about a day before we went near gin.
No, it did.
Peppermint tea last week, gin and tonic this week.
Yeah. Paul, as a photographer, obviously, if you've got any outdoor weddings you'd wish to submit, please send them over. And if you do video montages, that's what we're dying for at the moment.
Right.
Right, that's it. Thanks very much.
Bye.
Bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.